Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our new edition of Is This Pilot Actually Good? Where we answer that question, but we also take a look at a lot of other stuff regarding the first episode of a number of notable shows. We've got a lot of great discussions on the channel already. We have a playlist for them: Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, so many more. Take a look at that. Here, though, we are getting into Grey's Anatomy, a show that a decade and a half later is still on the air and is still an enormous hit.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a show that we cover regularly here at the channel, and full disclosure of where I am with Grey's Anatomy. I got into the show much later in the season, so I've seen the past couple seasons. I have not seen the pilot until now. I have not seen the earlier seasons. And this is actually, for me, the first show we've done in this series where I haven't seen the pilot. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into it with you guys and hear what you guys have to say from, people who have seen the whole thing.
Yeah, and for me, I've watched probably more seasons overall. I've not seen every episode of Grey's, and my knowledge of the earlier seasons is a little bit spottier. I had seen bits and pieces of the pilot before, but I can't remember if I've actually sat down and watched it all in one straight viewing like I did today. And it is fascinating to sort of look at it, look at where the show goes, look at where a lot of these characters evolve, and also just, is this good? Does this pilot justify having the 15-plus year run that follows? But before we dive in, if you guys do like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other updates we've got coming up your way.
So normally I like to start these off by talking about the theme song and the opening credits. And this is the first one we've done where there wasn't any in this pilot. Now, I don't know if the original, when it first aired all those years ago, that they actually had it in there, but what we just watched, no real opening theme song or opening credits. It was just sort of like Grey's Anatomy. And if that's what they actually aired back in the day, that's really edgy to do something like that, because that many years ago, we're talking about a time where there were theme songs for every show. That was really important to catch in your audience. So the fact that straight away, no theme song, I was like, oh, this is really interesting.
Yeah, and their history with the theme song is weird in itself, because it is, there is one that's out there and it's associated well with the show, but it wasn't in our viewing of the pilot, and it's certainly not there anymore. And I know on the very rare occasion people do hear that old classic Grey's Anatomy theme, it strikes nostalgia with them, because it hasn't been on the show in forever in present day. Their handling of that is different, and really, despite being a medical drama, which are pretty much dime a dozen these days, there's a lot about Grey's Anatomy that is different. Just starting with the fact that I don't really think ABC ever thought it was going to be this. It premiered at mid-season, sort of in the spring, and I feel like from all of our years of covering stuff, 80% of a lot of the stuff in this time slot, or at least at this time of year, ends up getting canceled. It becomes a huge hit really, really fast. Come season 2, season 3, it's getting more than 20 million live viewers a week.
And after watching the pilot, just the pilot alone, which is all we're really talking about here, I understand why this became such a runaway hit. It has really great characters. It's got a romance right away between Meredith and Derek that is off the charts, smoking chemistry just from the first scene. The looks, the feeling, the body language, just really good. Sort of a will they, won't they, even though they did, but will they, won't they later.
Yeah.
I do know that they eventually go on to have a much, obviously, larger relationship. But right here, for just the pilot, we've got really interesting characters. We see sort of the dynamics that are growing. I love that they were a medical show where we're going into it and it's their first day a lot of times when we're watching medical shows where it is a dime a dozen, it's a lot more established doctors. Yeah, you have a couple of people here or there that are like the new guy or whatever, but to have a group of brand new doctors that are all going in on the first day, that was really fascinating. And I think it was fascinating for a lot of people. I mean, look at the ratings.
There's so much I think the pilot does well, and I think probably a lot of the concern was that, okay, it's another hospital show. Even if it's different, are people going to connect to it? But I think having doctors entering this profession, dealing with all the intimidation, the stress of the job, the long hours, you really kind of see a lot of what these people go through almost right away. I think that part of it was very, very appealing. And this was also sort of a part of an era of ABC where Desperate Housewives was sort of a really big thing too. And I think they were probably thinking a lot of, okay, let's give people a show that's kind of edgy and kind of juicy and has a lot of this sort of drama and romance and relationship. So I think it just ended up being a perfect marriage of here's something that's popular for us genre-wise alongside here's a medical part of this, and we know medical dramas can be successful. Good characters, good chemistry. It all works together.
The other thing that this show did very differently at that time that no one else was really doing was to have a really well thought out, strong female lead who is leading the show. A lot of times we'll get medical shows where we have a strong female lead and a strong male lead, but this is all from Meredith's perspective. This show is about her and everyone that's sort of around her and the pressures that are on her. And I thought that that was really cool as well, because there's not, at that time, that's not really a thing. It was sort of, yeah, you had the strong female lead, but you had a strong male lead to sort of back that up. And this is her show. This is about her, and that's really interesting and intriguing to people. And I think that it opened up a platform for other women out there that wanted to see something like this.
I think one of the reasons why the narration in the show, and it's brief, but why it works in the pilot, and I'm not usually a big fan of narration in general, but I think it works because it does sort of establish this is the main voice of the show almost right away, and so there's not really any confusion as to whose show you're watching. You're watching someone whose last name is Gray. Grey's Anatomy is in the title of the show. You get a pretty clear portrait as to who she is, what she's going through, the pressures of it. For starters, being the daughter of Ellis, a legendary person in this field, the judgment that comes with that. And that's without the just pure awkward coincidence. And I mean, is it too TV coincidental that she was with Derek and Derek turns out to be her boss? Sure, but it's television. But that does add even more to the pressure.
Yeah, and that's something we've seen through other TV shows as well, where there's a one-night stand and then, oh no, we're all working together.
Yeah.
That's not something that hasn't happened before.
Yeah.
But because of the chemistry and because of who she is and who he is, it worked really well. I mean, I saw it coming even from just the two of them together. Of course, I know they get together, but I would have felt like this is where we're going. Oh no, here we go.
Yeah.
Now they're working together. What's gonna happen? But I still was enjoying it. And that chemistry is crazy between those two. I had never seen them together because, like I said, I've come into this a lot later on, and I missed all of the really good stuff. We gotta talk also about Cristina. I love Sandra Oh. The first film I ever saw her in was Last Night. It's a Canadian film. If you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. She is so great in everything that I've seen her in. We love Killing Eve.
Yeah.
Of course, she's so good over there. But this character is just very cool because she's really unfiltered. And it was great to finally jump into an episode where I actually get to see her more, because now she's not on the show, obviously, but she's such an important character to this show that they still have text messages coming in. We still see that she has a relationship with Meredith. She sent Cormac over the show as a gift. So, I mean, it's her impact on this show and on Meredith is immeasurable.
I think they handle Cristina well in the pilot. I think we have an idea as to, okay, here is who she is. She is someone who hasn't had a lot handed to her in life. She's had to work extremely hard, and I think because of that, and she also sees Meredith, and she finds out about the various things that have gone on in Meredith's life, she's kind of quick to draw judgments about that, and I think that speaks to her competitive nature. So you see conflict between the two of them, but you also see the formation of a relationship and something that becomes so important that Cristina becomes referred to as Meredith's person, and that has sort of become like etched into pop culture, where people are basically like, you're my person, and they don't even know where it came from. It's just that kind of important to a part of our culture. And this is where it begins, and I do think that they do a good job with that in this episode.
I thought they did an excellent job with that in this episode. I mean, we saw right away when Meredith was outside throwing up and Cristina came out and she's like, nah, I'm good, we're gonna go in. But that scene in the library where they're sitting down, they're going through stuff, and Meredith shares this secret, and Cristina, reveals this secret hours later. Mm-hmm. But that last scene at the end where they're both sitting down and they're kind of like, okay, we're not going to do that thing where we say we're sorry and cry and move on. And they are exactly on the same page with so many things, and they laid it out beautifully in this pilot that I could tell right away that, like, that's something that other relationships that are brand new would be ended to have your coworker out that you have slept with your boss in front of other people. Like, for me, I would never trust that person again. But because these two people are so in sync with each other and they figure it out so quickly within that 48-hour period, they did a really good job relaying that to me.
I think the core of the show in the pilot is very much there. It's very strong. I think there's still a lot of stuff sort of on the periphery that they're still kind of trying to figure out that isn't perfect in the episode. I think we don't really know a lot about Bailey other than that she's tough. They refer to her with a name that does not age particularly great in 2020. I don't think they would refer to her as that now. We get to see a little bit of George, who is very much kind of a foundational early character. Izzy, who has become kind of just brought up again because of the exit of Alex, and we don't need to get into that again, but
no.
I think the main core of the show, I think, is really good in the pilot. I think they're just dealing with sort of a limited amount of time in order to make everything else work. I don't think we needed to spend as much time on the Izzy examinations that she has sort of forced to put through, because it's like, okay, butt humor, we get it. Well, I wish we found out more about her other than that.
Yeah, I mean, there is limited time, and there is a lot of characters that are all kind of being thrown at you at the same time. I like that they showed that it was obviously very busy. It is very competitive. These are the main people that we're all going to kind of get to know. But they didn't do the greatest job with Izzy and really letting us get to know her in the little bit of time that they did. But there were other characters we only saw for a second, like Alex, that, we got right away what this guy is like. We didn't need a lot of time to figure that out. This is him.
Yeah, it felt like Alex is almost blink and you missed it, but we at least got something with him. And Richard Weber, he looks so different than he does now. Like, that was my real... I always love watching shows that are this old and trying to, like, reflect on, oh, you know, this is how this person looks now, but with Grey's, it's still on the air, and you can see a lot of connective tissue. It just looked at Richard's like, wow, you look really different.
Yeah, and then I saw Meredith, and I'm like, you haven't aged at all. You look exactly the same. How is this possible? Please tell me if anybody knows how she does this.
It is funny in that way, going and looking at Grey's right now, so long removed from all of it. But I think the most successful thing about this pilot to me is you have Meredith have a little bit of a win in that she sort of helps to save this life. Derek brings her on for the procedure, and you know, it could be this episode ends on this extremely happy note, but I think the reveal at the very end of it sort of pays a lot of it off, where you find out what's really happening with Ellis, and Meredith is sort of relaying a lot of these stories later. So it does sort of paint this larger picture that Meredith is not this character who can just be, you know, freewheeling or just sort of has this life that's anywhere near easy, because it's not.
Yeah, I mean, sort of, you see at the beginning, everybody's kind of making their judgments about her. Oh, her mom is this well-renowned surgeon, won these awards, you know, of course she's going to kind of have the easy ride. And then you really get to know what's going on, and her mother told her, oh, listen, you know, you don't have what it takes to get into this, which is crazy. You know, your mother's a legend in this field, and she's telling you you don't have what it takes, but you're going to do it anyways. That's a lot of pressure on you. Then the big reveal at the end is it looks like she has Alzheimer's, and she doesn't even remember her daughter, let alone telling her that she's not going to make it, you know, and so she's now in this kind of position where she's, you know, taking care of her mom to some degree. Her mom seems to be also in some sort of a home that's able to help her further, but it's almost like she's in this weird spot where her mom felt like she didn't have it in her to become what she's now become. So it's kind of a lose, lose, lose. Everybody's losing in this, where she's never really going to get that sort of pat on the back that we all want from our parents of, you know, Mom, you weren't sure that I was going to be able to do it, but I want to show you that I can do it, but now you don't even know who I am. It is heartbreaking.
And I love that eventually, and it takes a long time, Meredith has this vision. It's one of the milestone episodes where Ellis in her mind is like standing up while she's doing surgery and like almost metaphorically cheering her on, but that's not really even Ellis. That's just sort of an imagination, and I think this scene speaks a lot to that and sort of the heartbreaking nature of it. And I think this moment, it is what I think really gets people excited about Grey's in a way where it gives you this sort of big reveal of, oh, there's a lot more going on here than I ever first realized. And this show is still binge watched by millions of people a year who are just getting into it. Yeah. I think that is one of the reasons why it does as well as it does.
And the community, the Grey's community is really awesome in that way, because there's a lot of shows where it's kind of like, oh, you weren't watching from the beginning. This is not that community. You can jump into Grey's at any time, and everybody wants to talk about it, whether this is the first time you've watched it from the beginning. And that's one of the things that I've enjoyed about watching this show and coming in so late, because I was pretty worried at first that it was gonna be like that, where people would be like, oh, well, I've been watching since the beginning. No, everybody's welcome with this show. It is watched by so many people.
And I think it's because of the way it makes us feel. The Grey's community, I think, is built just out of emotionally connecting to these characters, where you want to root for them. You root for them to be together. You don't want terrible things to happen. You know Shonda's going to kill somebody off, but still, you find a way to just support them and like them and cheer for them. And I think that's why, you know, is this pilot actually good? I think the answer is yes. I'm not going to say it's one of my 5 favorite pilots of all time. I think there are some things that it could do a little bit better here and there, but I do think it very solidly sets up what the show is. I think it does create some good characters, dramatic moments, gets you excited for the future. I don't know how you could want anything sort of more from it given the time in which it aired.
Yeah, and for me, one of the things that I like to look at when we do these series of, is this pilot actually good? Yes, it's good. One of the other things I like to look at is, would this pilot make me watch the next episode? And absolutely, this pilot makes me want to watch the next episode, and I'm going to. I haven't seen the first season. This is my first time watching the pilot. I'm very interested now to see what's going to happen next, especially with that last scene with Meredith and her mom.
Yeah, if I was watching this all for the first time, I would be on board with watching more of it. And I say that as medical dramas aren't even always my favorite thing. I think when they're done well, they're done really well. One random shout out at the end of this video to, for all of you Heroes fans out there, we had Sindhu Ramamurthy, who you may know as Mohinder Suresh. He has a 5-second appearance in this episode, and he is credited, I looked it up, as intern number 2. Congratulations,
we all have to start
Sindhu.
somewhere.
You started somewhere. You had a great appearance on this. You've been on 8 other shows, and for some reason, too many of your shows get canceled. But anyway, I always find that fun to look back and be like, hey, it's that person I recognize.
So was this pilot actually good? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's worth rewatching or watching for the first time if you're trying to get hooked on a show. It sets up what Grey's Anatomy is, and I think it's reasonably consistent with the Grey's Anatomy that we know now. The only thing that I don't know is that in this pilot, Meredith is narrating to her. It's sort of revealed she's narrating to her mother. Mm-hmm. I don't know who she's really narrating to anymore, but I think that's just so ingrained in the show that we just kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
But anyway, what did you guys think about the Grey's Anatomy pilot? Is it good? Did you love it? Be sure to share in the comments. And if you do like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and you can support us further by checking the link in the description to the store. And we'll see you here next time.